And it's funny, we're just, at the time of this recording anyway, we're coming out of the mask situation, at least here in Brazil, and which is a filter, right? So the idea, there's a kind of third vector, which is sort of filtering, kind of like a criteria of what you will accept and what you won't accept. So this often comes up in relationships too. You essentially like a person, you want to be open, but they have a tendency to go into complaining or misery or whatever. And of course, we all have it. So it's, of course, you can apply this filter to yourself as well. But the idea of a mask that it filters, there are technology, electrical technologies. It's in the Trail 1 of the Ruby Mountain series, where you can literally project a kind of electrical shield to keep out certain types of astral contaminants. But without going into that technique, just the notion that, and the mental projection that I like you, I'm open to you, I love you, whatever it happens to be, but I don't want this aspect, I don't want the misery. And you kind of try to identify the astral influence and separate it out from the person. The person's been through a fish market doesn't mean they are a fish, you know. It's an influence, and electrically people catch influences, process influences, but it's not them. And if you do that magically, it kind of blocks that aspect, and a person intuitively feels that you're not open to that aspect, and then they will broaden the territories that are more pleasant. Because one of the other aspects in terms of energy is like attracts like, you know, things synchronize to each other. It's like tuning in to a radio station. You'll notice, for example, if you're feeling down, you start to look around and everything looks down, everything looks grey. You have an inclination to listen to sad music. Start remembering all the tragedies of your life and tragedies of human situation. And it's because you've tuned into that zone of the astral light, of the astral worlds. And everything, your mind starts running along like skating on ice, that field of influences and manifestations and appearance and everything else. So you've got to resist that, because if you're in that, you'll tend to form relationships with other people that are also in that zone. Yes. So you get two people love complaining together, and you can almost feel it literally. If you're feeling sad, you feel like calling a certain person, that with that person you can both kind of whinge together. To break out of that is not always that easy, but to know, at least knowing it's going on, and don't watch a melancholic movie, watch something that's more cheerful, listen to some music that helps shake it off, do some electrical cleaning, which we explain in Trail 1, yes. But something to shake it off rather than settling into that zone. Once you're into a better zone where better qualities lie, you know, cheerfulness, enthusiasm, lightheartedness, this type of thing, patience, kindness. These are the zones we kind of want to live our lives on. And it's very easy to slip out, because more and more as bad news spreads around the world and the human race is in a difficult phase, clearly, it's easy to click into the wrong radio station, let's say. So it does require kind of discipline, but also having a plan of action that if you feel yourself slipping, turn your mind to something better, recall a certain quality that you want to generate into the world. You know, that phrase, I think it was St. Francis of Assisi, better to light a single candle than curse the darkness. Yeah. To have these kind of notions that, how do I want to be? Because the extension of that is that's going to tune you to other good things. And in relationships, you'll bring better quality conversations out, and you'll have better interchange with people. But it really starts with oneself, because if you're in that kind of blocked, unpleasant astral state, the compound effect of that is other people don't really want to deal with you either, because you're going to be unless they're already in the same zone. So it's fascinating stuff, because it all starts to spiral in a certain direction, and the sooner we put in certain cares and considerations, the better.
And isn't that amazing that these ancient philosophical and religious truths are more and more confirmed by modern science? Because I saw a paper presented not so long ago, where if a person goes into a dark room, and the scientists have their photoreceptor equipment there, if that person starts thinking about light and brightness, their brain actually produces photons that actually produce light. And then if another person comes into the room, they don't know what this person's thinking, but the photon detectors then pick up the other human, their brains start producing photons and light as well, simply by being in the same room as a person who's producing more light. Absolutely fascinating stuff. And the other thing they research, because this is to do with energy and relationships, I noticed that my wife, because she loves sports and she's a netball coach, and so over the winter period, that's kind of when she's at her best, and I'm not. That's not my best part of the year. In the summer, even creatively, writing, artwork, discoveries, it's always better. And the funny thing was, this research showed that human beings actually produce more light and more photons out of their bodies during summer, and in winter it goes darker. These understandings about the unseen worlds and the mechanics of the human system, very, very important to do with relationships, because even that single thing, my wife thinks I'm not so interesting during the winter, a bit more interesting, and vice versa. But you got to realize it's just a sort of a trend and a pattern. And the amazing thing about being human is you can consciously override that, and not, as you say, not take it personally. It's just another factor in the mix.